Item 10, page 31, the monthly work plan looking forward through February 2014.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, that it's obviously working off a template, but I think that's the second month in a row that we've demonstrated that we can't spell, so it's not a hell of a good look. We need to fix it. So I'm just saying that the monthly work plan, I think it's the second month in a row that we've had a monthly work plan, and I just don't think it's a particularly good look to show people we can't spell.
And I agree, Councillor Dick, and I've just had assurance that it has been pointed out to our...
I'm sure it is.
And been rectified. Okay. Monthly or monthly, whatever it is, page 31, the Chief Executive to take us through
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Look, actually won't take you through. I'll just, in the interest of time, assume that you've read it, and happy to take questions. I've got the key staff here who should be able to answer any.
Councillor Belford.
Just any more precision on the timing of the Comar report?
No, I did talk about this with Mike a week or two ago, and at that stage there wasn't a detailed date or anything like that, or a specific date.
They are working together. The councils are together. They have met. Is that correct?
Yes, they have. Yeah.
Just a couple of questions. Just the Makara number 1 there. Has work commenced there?
Yes. Yes, they're excavating the old pipes at the moment. The challenge they had there was the construction of the new pipes off-site in Honikawa, I believe. And they want to have it so the pipes are finished, trucked there and actually basically lifted off the truck and into the hole and set in place. So there's a timing issue trying to get all that to come together. My understanding is they are on target to get the pipes finished either the end of this week or next week. It's very, very close. So the work's been going on at the Makara site for 3 weeks, I think.
And Mr. Chairman, if I could just add that there's a field trip scheduled for Council to Central Hawke's Bay on the 20th of February, and this is going to be on the itinerary.
And just on the forestry area there, when we did the trip to Tutera, Lake Tutera, a little while back, the field trip that we took, we had a look at the, I think it was that area, those harvesting of stands 2.01 and 2.02. That's already started, has it now? I went past it the other day. It looked as if they were getting into it.
Yeah, I haven't seen any...
well, they're just doing the prep.
I haven't seen any mud coming out on the road, which is generally a giveaway that the trucks are working. So, but look, they're still prepping sites and etc. I suspect. I think the main rig is in there. You know, the what do they call them, the harvest rig, which is the cable logger. I think that's in there.
The log pull or the
cable logger, yeah. Yeah, Councillor Dick.
Just a series of questions. Land management focus on Papanui catchment as a pilot. Where is that? Where's Papanui?
That's within the Tukituk catchment. So that's so the Plan Chain 6, but Papanui specifically.
Papanui comes out back of Otani, Middle Road, Te Ati, around that vicinity. Runs back up. It effectively was the old channel of the Waipawa in years gone past.
I see. Okay.
Mr. Chair.
Sorry, just another couple if you don't mind. HDC wastewater consent. What are they applying for?
It's their replacement consent process.
Oh, replacement consent for
their existing scheme.
The system at East Clive.
Correct.
Okay, and lastly, strategic development statutory advocacy involving the reviews of proposed Hastings District Plan and Napier District Plan. Is that, I assume that's the harmonisation of the two district plans?
Yes, it is.
Okay. And are we reasonably happy at this stage with what they're doing?
I believe so. I haven't
principle of it is
actually seen a
excellent.
draft of the submission yet, so I'm not sure.
Mr. Mohi.
The Papanui is one of 6 Tuki-Tuki sub-catchments identified as having high phosphorus levels. There's an excellent two-pager that's been put out by the council, which actually brings into focus those 6 catchments in terms of Plan Change 6. Tangata Whenua have been working on there for 6 weeks with Hawke's Bay Regional Council staff, and very happy to be involved. But this is an excellent two-pager.
Thank you. Working back, we'll go back around this way. Councillor Barker.
Could just have a pick up on the comment made by the Chief Executive about field trips. Still on the agenda, but I just make the observation. I'm very happy with the field trips. The only question I would have is, can there be some consultation with the regional councillors about the field trips? People just put things in my diary like 3 days to Wairoa. I'm happy to go to Wairoa, but I just, with me, just some consultation to just appear in your diary. I thought might be good to have a plan of what's intended, so we can have some input to what we see as a priority, the time we're prepared to allocate, and so on. It's okay. Just an observation. The next question I have is about the Papanui catchment. And I don't want to, it's not really a question, but I don't see it as being particularly about a pilot for Plan Change 6. I think the Papanui catchment is a unique feature on its own, in that the water's been diverted. There's a whole pile of issues there. It was on our tour that I saw that the river is in a very poor, very degraded state. And I'm really keen to see that we focus some attention on it. It needs a lot of restoration there. The question I have is about the submission to the local government. I see the Chief Executive's Office is doing preparing the submission, and I'd just like to hear from the Chief Executive what's the basic principles that are going to be founding of the submission.
The submission is going to follow the commentary or the principles that were outlined in the agenda paper that you considered prior to Christmas, which was really around an acknowledgement within whatever local government structure finally evolves in Hawke's Bay around the core functions that this regional council currently undertakes, particularly around the management of natural resources. And so it was really to reinforce that. You'll recall that the actual draft proposal from the Local Government Commission never mentioned regional council functions in any way, and so it was really just the submission is really going to be along those lines, that there needs to be an acknowledgement of the importance of the management of natural and physical resources in an area that's primarily dependent on a primary-based economy.
Sure, thank you.
Moving round, Councillor Bevan.
Thank you, Chair. This is just going back to coastal and the COMAR report and what have you. I've had a couple of meetings with people from the WOW group in Hamoana. They provide me with some information about a meeting that was held between their engineer or consultant and the Hawke's Bay District Councils and the Hastings District Councils and the Hawke's Bay Regional Councils, which finished in mid-air because it appears that they couldn't agree on anything. And I just want to know if that's going to be advanced as part of the process that we're undertaking here.
Just in relation to the 2 questions now on the COMAR report, someone will go and fetch Mike 80 to talk to both those questions there. We can park that one. Any other questions? Councillor Scott.
Chairman, the long ongoing bill before Parliament on the treaty settlement, are we making any progress on that? And it is a long, long time since we approved with the treaty partners the last draft.
If you call version 17 progress, then yes, I guess we're making progress. We thought that we had it concluded prior to Christmas. There has been another version come out since then with some changes, fairly minor ones, and the pressure is really on the Office of Treaty Settlements to get it to the Legislation Committee. subcommittee.
So any timing?
Well, no, I mean, to be honest, I've given up asking because they keep changing it. But they're still on track because it's a part of the agreement that was undertaken by the office with Ngāti Pāwera in their treaty settlement legislation to have this committee set up. They've sought the indulgence of Ngāti Pāwera to extend the time frame, which was supposed to have been June last year, but obviously Ngāti Pāwera won't live with extensions forever.
May I ask another two questions, Mr. Chairman? One was the Clean Heat Installation Program to be developed with the District Health Board. Is this a new initiative, or is this under the existing funding for the and will it attract, if it's new, will it attract some external funding?
It's completely external funding. It's a proposal that's being prepared by Mark Heaney around to the Ministry for the Environment, who have specific funding set aside for that. I think the applications closed last week, but we won't hear about how successful that has been until about May. But if it is successful, there's a reasonably significant amount of money involved, about $300,000, which we would partner with the District Health Board to identify those low decile, poor quality housing or housing where there's families with health issues, and target the money there.
And just one on consents, if I may, Mr. Chairman, on the Whakaruri Avenue. It says likely to proceed. We went through a judicial review on the classification of this some time ago, and it upheld it was non-complying. What is the likely time, or is there yet any indication of a likely timetable of progress on this particular consent?
Through you, Mr. Chair, I can't help in terms of the timeframes, but I'm happy to find that information out and provide it to you by email.
Okay, Mr. Adey, there's a couple of questions. Perhaps if you repeat your question, or the first one I can quite easily tidy up, the timelines for the COMAR report, but ties in with what Councillor Bevan asked before. If you could repeat that, please.
Yeah, I got copied on some correspondence with you also with Mike, but I don't think any other councillor was, with regard to a caucus that occurred last year between the well-nominated engineer, ours, and the HDCs, which appeared to finish in the relief committee and was left a bit of angst out there. And I'm just wondering whether that's going to be addressed as part of the COMAR report, and you're coming back to us in June.
Yes, confirm I was copied in on that email train. We are currently scoping up what we think is an appropriate scope for the development of a long-term strategy for the coast. We are also very near to completing a range of work or a line of work associated with sediment transport in the Tugi River, which was a request from WOW. Now, once those two are done, we will certainly be sitting down with Hastings District Council, taking into account what WOW have requested and determining a way forward. So I would expect that by mid-February we'll be sitting down with Hastings and then be able to communicate back with WOW.
Could I suggest that you just give them an update and tell them that's where you're at?
Yes, happy to do that. It's probably best that comes through Hastings. So I'll suggest that they keep the main, they are best to be the main point of contact, I think. So that's fine. Yep.
And any later word on the arrival of the COMAR report, completion of it?
No, not at this stage. I haven't. We need to follow up with Paul Comar himself. I would hope by the middle of next month that everything is to hand, so we can determine just how to progress things from there.
And how will you bring it back to council? Is that something that might come through a committee, or do you?
Yes, probably best through a committee, because I think, the context needs to be wrapped around it in terms of where to from here.
Okay.
And I would like to do that in an agreed sort of process together with Hastings, both Hastings and Napier councils here.
Other questions? Someone happy to move? Councillor Scott, seconded Councillor Belford. Discussion. Put that motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Contrary, no. Carried. Thank you, Mr. Adey. Chairman's monthly report. It's almost a weekly report. I haven't done a lot in the preceding weeks of the month. There's a couple of things there that may interest you. If I could just perhaps a brief discussion on Waipariki. That's been an ongoing discussion with the owners out there in regard to their desire for the Waipariki campground to remain in public ownership. They started the discussion with Hastings District Council. However, in light of our aspirations, if you like, in regard to outdoor space in that part of the region, the suggestion is we deal with it and look at it and explore it, etc., perhaps through our annual plan process. So I'm just giving you a bit of a heads up that they'd like to sell. There's a couple of valuations that are a mile apart, and that needs to be worked through, but I do need some help and guidance of my colleagues when we get down to that discussion. So I think aspirationally it makes sense to maintain and retain, if you like, a public campground space at that part of the coast. As we've seen in Opatama, these things get sold and divvied up, and the Opatama one's a terrible example because then it went into bankruptcy and receivership and all sorts of stuff, and now it's all a beautiful part of the world just sitting there growing weeds and empty rubbish through it and stuff. Terrible. So I'm not saying that's what would happen there, but it just is an example of an opportunity that we may have, and it's at least worth discussing as a council. So, but other than that, bit of fishing. Wouldn't bore you with that. Fishing stories take too long. Probably wouldn't believe half of them anyway.
Exactly, because we haven't seen the fish.
I had up to 14 teenage boys descending on our camp every night. There was not a morsel of anything left. Very hungry. Any questions? Someone happy to move? Councillor Hewitt, second Councillor Graham. Put that motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Contrary, no. Carried.